welcome live from God City, Atlanta, Georgia. We are extremely excited to be bringing you the very first edition of the Matt and Sharrieff Show. I'm your host, Matt Fowler. He is Sharrieff. How you doing today, Sharrieff?
Pretty good. The fact that it's 2:30 in the morning and we just decided to do this, but yeah, very excited to get this done because it's been something that I've been wanting to do for a while.
You know, first time is always the most difficult one, but
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the agenda today, we're just be talking a little bit MLS since we were both in attendance for the Atlanta United Real Salt Lake game over the weekend. And also some college football while we're at it, and obviously Arsenal. You guys know we're both Arsenal fans. And then the big news that's going on right now in the NBA. Obviously, before the season starts, the rumor mills are going. Jimmy Butler, where's he going to land? He wants out of Minnesota. Where does he want to go? The word is he wants to go to Miami. We'll discuss. Little bit of NBA preseason primer for you. And also maybe a little bit of NHL if we get to it. NHL starts next week. Maybe get some predictions out of Sharrieff if he wants to think it's a sport. I don't know. But for right now, just go ahead and jump right into Atlanta United RSL. Atlanta United 2-0 victory, convincing. Other than a shaky start, Atlanta, three games in 7 days, getting 9 points from 9. That game in San Jose just looked like it took a lot out of them. So to start the game, I think they were just
Especially like you could see it in the players. Like most of the players were almost like falling out by the 70th minute, and so I thought that was really impressive that they still got it done even through that scenario, especially considering Real Salt Lake. I thought I was really impressed with them on the day compared to other teams I saw come into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They didn't look to park the bus, in my opinion. It looks like they came to attack, so you have to respect them for that.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Peck, he tries to play some really good stuff, but I mean, he throws kids out there. Like, I really like what Real Salt Lake does sometimes, but the talent differential is just really obvious. Atlanta's one of the best teams in the league for a reason. Like, you don't just walk into Mercedes-Benz and expect to get 3 points. Obviously, it was a big week for Atlanta. New York Red Bulls chomping at the bit, trying to get their heels, trying to get supporter shield down the stretch. Obviously, beautiful goal from Julian Gressel.
Absolute banger. Especially like Atlanta was like right down their throat for like the first 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And I think Villalba had just hit the post just a few minutes earlier on a very similar goal to what Gressel scored. And that moment was really key because I feel like it seems like a constant case at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, terrible finishing, and then the other team comes back right down 1-0. So
happened all too often.
Yeah.
And then obviously the big news in the press box when the team sheets came out, the big news is George Bello, 16 years old, getting the start at left back. He fucking smashed it.
Really composed the entire day. Other than like I said, by the 70th minute, he was absolutely gassed. You could see it. He needed to be off. I think he almost was sitting down by the time he went out. But overall, really impressive performance. He nearly scored, which I was really impressed with. Very composed the entire day.
I mean, he barely got beat at all. Like it was actually very impressive the way, because RSL, like I was mentioning, they play some nice stuff at times, and they have 2 or 3 players who can just embarrass you on the ball, and he was stuck up against the most dangerous of them all, and Jefferson Savarino, and he made it look like a walk in the park. And for a 16-year-old, it was very impressive. And
correct me if I'm wrong, Savarino has the most assists in the MLS right now, so that was
does he?
An easy task. That's what someone behind me was saying. Maybe we need to check that. But
yeah, I think because unfortunately for Mr. Savarino, I think our good old boy Miguel Almiron and actually Julian Gressel as well is also in the hunt for that.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. We might need to fact check that really quick.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then Gressel after the match was saying, that that second goal that Villalba got.
12 assists.
What do you say?
Julian Gressel has 12 assists.
Yeah, Gressel has 12 assists, and then I think Miguel is 15, right?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Nonetheless, still really impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, and then RSL is going to be a playoff team, in my opinion. They should be a playoff team unless they stumble down the stretch. They came in. They drew against Minnesota, but Krylak was on fire. He scored in his last 3 games, and RSL came in trying to play the style that had succeeded earlier in the week in San Jose. San Jose had some success against Atlanta, playing a long ball over the top, and you could see RSL trying to exploit that early, but Atlanta snuffed it out. Yeah, and so Gressel after the game was actually saying how important it was for that second goal, because Gressel was having to give himself like intervals, just saying, "Hey man, 5 more minutes," because they played they've traveled across the country. They played 2 games on the West Coast, and then they came over and got three wins from 3. So big week for Atlanta United in the Supporters Shield.
Definitely takes a lot out of you. Like that's almost NBA level travel, right?
Yeah,
you're playing 90 minutes. That's really incredible.
It's actually insane how much the work they put in as well. And then just it's kind of hard to mention that San Jose game without mentioning the shenanigans that went on with the quote unquote nightmare scenario that happened. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's where a goal is taken off the board for a penalty decision at the other end. It's literally it happened. If you need to look it up, it's going to be kind of hard to explain, but it's basically where it's a 2-goal swing is what happened in San Jose.
You go from being up 4-1 to being to it being 3-2 to the other team.
Yeah, and then Atlanta
comes back and equalizes.
Yeah, Atlanta just ran with it after that. I mean, the blood was in the water, and then the 2 MVP candidates they stood up and ran with it, and they took the game over. And a 30th goal for Joseph Martinez last week as well.
That's it.
Very impressive.
Incredible. I read a stat before. I believe it was the RSL game. I was actually looking up at the Halo ring in the Mercedes-Benz. The guy before the RSL game on 49 shots on target has 30 goals. That is absolutely
it's fucking bonkers.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Oh, shit. Okay. But yeah, big game on Sunday, 1:00 Eastern time, ESPN for those in the States. We have arguably the biggest MLS match in recent memory, regular season MLS match. This is, if Atlanta wins, they go up. I want to say it's going to be 7 points or something like that in the Supporters Shield. But if New York Red Bulls win, it'll be a 1-point advantage, and then obviously Atlanta wants to get a draw there. Away at New York, a team that beat them earlier in the season at Mercedes-Benz. But the big news came out not earlier in the day, but last Saturday. 4 minutes left in the game. Bradley Wright Phillips, star striker for the New York Red Bulls, picks up a needless yellow card, gets himself suspended for this match against Atlanta, a pivotal game in the MLS season, and could be a huge loss for New York Red Bulls.
Yeah, for sure. I think that definitely gives Atlanta United the advantage going into the game. I think they'll definitely feel comfortable attacking New York with them not having their key man. It would be if Atlanta didn't have Joseph, obviously, but I think they should feel confident going into that game, especially winning 3 games on the bounce in 7 days like that. That's
yeah.
They should feel confident going into the game.
I mean, the Atlanta guys. I think it's kind of hard to understate how gassed they were in the locker room. Jeff Larunowitz, he's like, hey man, can we not mention that game yet? I just want to go home and sleep, and I just can't like comprehend how difficult that must be to have to travel that much, because the only league in the world that probably has near as much travel is the Russian league, because it's just so much. It's one of the unique challenges. It's one of the difficult challenges that make MLS unique. Whether or not you agree with the quality, it makes it a big difference in MLS. But anyway, say we move on to some college football. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Let's hop into the Dogs real quick. Less than convincing performance, in my opinion. Obviously, when you're trying to shoot for the stars here, you're trying to compete with Alabama, who just right now look on another level.
Out of this world.
And so, yeah. And I wasn't very impressed. I went back and watched it on Sunday. Went back and watched the game on Sunday, and just not enough on the line of scrimmage from Georgia against an undersized line of scrimmage from Missouri. It kind of had me frustrated, but at the same time, I can't really complain. Still won by 14 against what could be one of the 2 best teams in the not one of the 2, one of the contenders for second best team in the SEC East, which is it's kind of cool but kind of sad at the same time.
When the other team is so
correct
ahead of the other team.
And so at this point, I'm not necessarily looking at SEC East foes. Obviously, I don't want to overlook the Florida game or the Auburn game or anything like that, but moving forward, you kind of expect that Georgia has got Alabama in their future in Atlanta in December. But Jake Fromm, one of his worst days in Georgia uniform, I'd say. Like he didn't play too bad, but coming into this game, he had an 80% completion percentage. He only completed 13 of 23, which he still had 3 touchdowns, but one of them was a complete blown coverage from Missouri, and then another one was piss poor tackling. And then, but
I think Georgia will feel pretty comfortable this year, knowing that. Well, I mean, they probably felt pretty comfortable last year having Jacob Eason there, who was pretty experienced. But when you have someone as talented as Justin Fields being a backup, I think Jake Fromm being out of form is really no issue. If he's not at it come early versus Tennessee this weekend, expect to see Justin Fields.
Yeah, and then especially the opening line for the for the Tennessee game. It's not very often you get a 30-point spread. It's 32.5. Georgia's a 32.5-point favorite in Vegas. So
shows a bit of, I mean, it speaks on how good Georgia are, but how big of a mess Tennessee are.
Tennessee's just
their players quit in the middle of the game. Their team. It's absolutely outrageous.
Mizzou actually got more first downs than Georgia, almost equal in rushing yards. Let's see. Georgia's just not nearly as much of a lopsided performance as they had in Columbia, South Carolina, a few weeks back. But I think Kirby. This will be something for Kirby to show the guys, and it's a harmless performance. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, like it gives something to show them. Yeah, it gives something to show those guys to not be too overconfident, and some teaching material for sure. All right, and then let's move on to the guys we briefly mentioned that are just absurd.
Louisiana Lafayette at the weekend. We see another 60 points put on the board.
Oh, it just might be bad. It just might be that. The number one in the nation, Alabama Crimson Tide. Sharrieff, Tua Tagovailoa is a cheat code.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, has Saban really had a quarterback this gifted ever? And that's
No.
that's scary. That's scary to say, you know. When you put a coach as talented as Saban, hook him up with somebody like Tua, it's a recipe for disaster for the rest of all of college football, really. If you look at how Saban was dominating, even with Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, which obviously is not a shot at Jalen Hurts, he just isn't near as talented as Tua. What Jalen Hurts has, one career loss to his resume?
Yeah, one or two. Yeah. Well, he was on his way to no, he has two because he lost that Auburn game. He was on his way to a third before Tua saved the day in the national championship game.
Exactly. You go from somebody who you only lose basically 3 games with in 3 years to somebody who is way more talented, undebatably. How do you expect them to lose, honestly? Where do you see them losing it? That's very tough to answer.
I've said it before. There's only there's 3 other teams that have the horses, the guys, the dudes to hang with Alabama, and it's Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State. They all have the dudes. I'm not sure Ohio State is a good enough team, and I'm not sure Clemson is either. I may be a bit of a homer here, but Georgia looks like they match up physically with Alabama on the line of scrimmage, but at the end of the day, Tua is a difference maker, and Tua can make up the margins where sometimes Jake Fromm didn't last year in the national championship game when the line of scrimmage, Bama started to dominate it in the second half, and Georgia couldn't run the ball at all. Obviously, Jake Fromm still played a fantastic game, but he couldn't do enough he couldn't get enough first downs to keep the ball out of Tua's hands. Tua leads a comeback, and obviously unlucky in turnover.
Those fine margins are going to matter.
Yeah,
and I think that's where Alabama are going to come ahead of Georgia. But obviously, I think the gaps are going to continue to close through the years because Georgia's recruiting so well right now. So
yeah,
definitely expect that to close just a little bit, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kirby knows what he's doing. I just think right now, what we mentioned the other day at lunch was you see teams scoring 45 points and whatnot, and you see teams averaging over 50 points, but they don't usually have a defense that can hold your opponent to under 20. Alabama is just that next level. So Alabama is just a problem. Where
they're scoring 50 and holding their opponents under 14, basically.
Yeah, it is just out of control. And then, I just kind of on a side note, we mentioned Justin Fields, and we mentioned Jalen Hurts, and we mentioned Tua and that controversy to start the year, and we talk about what is a situation at Georgia rather than a controversy with Fromm and Fields. I think it's more of a Fields just trying to learn more of a complex scheme, blocking scheme rather, so he knows the protections to call to. But for right now, the all 3. The top teams in the nation all had a quarterback controversy of some sort, and one of them ironed out this week. The Clemson Tigers have made a quarterback change to Trevor Lawrence, good old Sunshine, and 24 hours later, we get the news that Kelly Bryant has decided to transfer, a player that led Clemson to a college football playoff berth last year that fell short to the aforementioned Alabama Crimson Tide. But there are many that believe that this was the right move from Dabo Swinney to promote Trevor Lawrence as starter.
Yeah,
And
I think if you look at all three situations, that one was definitely the most obvious one that's going to happen.
Agreed.
Especially considering after Kelly Bryant's performance versus Alabama, I think a lot of people were pointing out his flaws after that game. And when you have a quarterback as talented as Trevor Lawrence coming in, it was always on the cards. You know?
Yeah.
If you look at, Tua, Jalen Hurts, they're really good friends, and it doesn't look like Jalen Hurts has a problem playing the backup role right now. And then obviously with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm, like Jake had already had that job, you expected him to keep it for a good amount of time unless he really started messing up. So I think, in my opinion, that was obviously the most obvious thing that was going to happen.
And the thing with Fromm is, like, there's no obvious deficiencies. With Jalen Hurts, there's a quite obvious deficiency that Georgia exploited in the national championship game that Clemson would have exploited had the boa constrictor not come out for Alabama. They just squeezed them with field position. There's no way Kelly Bryant could dig out of those holes that they were put in. I mean, every drive was starting at their own fucking 10-yard line. It was kind of getting out of control. But obviously that's last year. But Clemson, we know they're not fighting for an ACC title. They're fighting for the national championship. This move to promote Trevor Lawrence as starter was looking ahead to playing the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the teams that you'll have to throw the ball consistently and be a difference maker in the passing game. And going forward, I think that's probably the smartest move for Clemson to go ahead and make Trevor Lawrence their starting quarterback. Let's see. Go ahead and start with Arsenal. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
All right. Arsenal, 2-0 win at the weekend, 6 on the trot now in the Premier League. Not very convincing.
Overall.
Oh, 6 on the trot overall. But still not very convincing to the standards that a lot of us, I think, when I speak for us, I don't think we were very convinced by that performance. But, a win's a win. Goals from your two strikers, Lacazette and Aubameyang.
Yeah, and they're hitting stride at the right time. And I think as far as Arsenal, like, you kind of expect a little bit of a slow start. Once we hit November or so, though, you expect the fluidity to come with the results, or at least hopefully, But for now, all that matters is grind out the results. And the two games that we've lost this season have been to one team that knows exactly what they're going to do coming into the season, and the other team that had less question marks than us coming into the season. So to win, I believe it is 6 straight. It's impressive in that sense from memory, especially when we had such a big away drought. We've won quite a couple away games now. So I'm impressed in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is this year is kind of I think we all agree that City's going to run away with the title anyway. This wasn't going to be a year that Arsenal was going to compete with title. Maybe you're going to try to sneak in a top 4. Yeah, unless you get hot. If you get hot, you got a hot hand, shit happens. But for right now, what I was kind of looking forward to in the season was to just try to remain competitive while integrating the system and getting the players that Unai Emery wants in, and just kind of make some kind of progress. Obviously, there's a cloud of uncertainty that has surrounded, like, whether or not Wenger was the reason why Arsenal wasn't winning. There's just
and just to transition to another subject, we're currently sitting with September 28th. So the big news of the day yesterday was that Arsenal had a contract offer for Aaron Ramsey and withdrew it. So that situation is definitely very, very interesting. It looks like Ramsey will be out the door. Something that I really didn't expect. I really expected. Apparently, Emery was a really big fan coming into Arsenal. Like as soon as he came in, there was huge reports that he wanted to make basically Ramsey the main man. So it's a bit confusing, but if we bring in a better replacement, or a competent replacement, I'm not really upset. Ramsey hasn't really been in the best form this season so far. I was really impressed with him towards the end of last season. But I think the midfield situation is one of the biggest question marks at the moment, because without Ramsey there, who are you going to play in that midfield? Like, you have...
There's not much energy coming out of the midfield, is there?
Yeah. I guess you continue on with the Xhaka Torreira pivot, but at the same time, like, is that too defensive? I mean, Torreira is very good going forward, and so is Xhaka, but is there enough, like, obviously, it might be a little bit cliche, but a little bit, enough locomotion in that midfield.
Yeah, I mean,
to push us forward.
I mean, you're right though. Like Ramsey is one of those players that when you stick him in midfield, at least you're going to get some miles run out of him. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, I didn't expect this move either. I didn't expect that. I thought they were just going along smoothly, and it was just going to be only a matter of time before a new contract was announced. But turns out I was very wrong on that. It's going to be a difficult player to replace, in my opinion, because
absolutely
he's kind of I don't want to say leader, but like he was one of the stalwarts in the locker room throughout all this change, all this overturn of the roster, of the squad, and Ramsey's still there.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's difficult. People throw around the word legend or whatever to pin that title on Ramsey, but at the end of the day, he gave a decade to Arsenal and 2 FA Cup final winners. It's a resume that not many Arsenal players will ever have. So it's going to be definitely not an easy job to replace him, and it's definitely going to be a weird question mark for the rest of the season with him there. Do you get rid of him in January? Do you keep playing him? It's a very weird situation. And
then I'll be interested to see what kind of names pop up in the rumor mill as a replacement for Ramsey. I wonder if he brings. I wonder if Emery sees anybody in the academy that he might like, that he wants to bring in, that he might want to bring in and integrate into the squad and just try some guys out. But obviously, it is a big risk. So I think obviously the transfer market's one thing, but we'll have to see what kind of names come out as a replacement for Ramsey. If Ramsey does in fact leave, obviously it's not confirmed yet, but Ornstein reported it, right?
Pretty much
earlier.
The major outlets were reporting.
Multiple news outlets saying that Ramsey is no longer going to be an Arsenal player after this year, after his contract runs out. But and
Watford at the weekend. So
Watford at the weekend. That's another game that Arsenal should be winning, because after Arsenal's had a good run of form, because the teams that were playing, we had a relatively easy schedule, a fixture list.
Provide a challenge for sure.
Yeah,
it still should be a winnable game.
I mean,
I think they come into it, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. So it definitely won't be a pushover. But at the end of the day, you should expect a squad with the talent of ours to be able to win this game at home. Yeah, it should be very, very winnable. Yeah,
they currently sit a point above Arsenal in the table, and 4th right now, behind obviously Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and then Watford's in 4th right now, also above Spurs. So it'd be nice to jump up into those spots if we could.
Just had to throw that in there.
What do you say?
I said also the sinking ship of Manchester United.
It's only a matter of time, brother. Third year Mourinho's undefeated. And then the result yesterday, Carabao Cup. I'm not gonna talk about it. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it did happen. Welbeck brace to lead him past Brentford.
And speaking of Welbeck, I was actually talking about it. Very weird that a lot of Arsenal fans want him sold to me, because I think he's the type of guy who doesn't mind playing in a game like this, and he's going to give you production in a game like this. You know, obviously he's not the most clinical striker, he's not the best technically, but he's a versatile forward who's going to give you a lot, and at the end of the day, you're not going to mind having him in your squad, especially if he's not demanding playing time. Then it'd become a problem, but as long as he's not demanding playing time, he's homegrown. If he's giving you production in games like this, that's literally all you can ask for. And then, like I said, he's versatile. If he can come off the bench, play on each wing, he's going to give you 100% effort each time. That's the difference between, keeping him and someone like Olivier Giroud. Giroud probably would have asked for more playing time. He's not as versatile as a forward, so I think in the long run, it makes sense to keep someone like Danny Welbeck.
Yeah.
Look at something like Daniel Sturridge did midweek versus PSG. Like you don't mind.
Yeah, he popped up.
Sturridge out there,
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very similar with Welbeck, especially at Daniel Sturridge's point in the career. I think they're very comparable players.
Yeah, and I think as long as Welbeck seems like he's a good soldier, if you get what I'm saying. Like he seems like he's a guy that everybody in the locker room likes him. It feels like he doesn't really cause too many issues. He doesn't do anything to act out. Doesn't cause any controversy, and so like you're saying, he's a guy that you don't mind having in your squad because he does all those other things, and he seems like a locker room glue guy as well. Kind of like El Nini's become, which is kind of obvious, which is kind of strange. Yeah. And then, moving on to the Carabao Cup, which saw United lose to, I think Derby County. Yeah, I think.
Same penalties.
And penalties.
90th minute equalizer from Fellaini to try to save the day, but it just not at it for United. Then during the week, during training, you have
I was about to mention that. You could see his immediate reaction. I don't know what he was doing, but that is hysterical the way he reacted when he saw Mourinho pop up. And please #save Pogba. Please save our boy. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and get a move on over to the stuff we really want to talk about here. The Jimmy Butler scenarios. What do we think? Obviously, last week it popped up. All the big NBA reporters, Woj, Mark Stein, Shams, all reported that Jimmy Butler wanted out of Minnesota. All sorts of different rumors as to why. Looking at you, Karl Anthony Towns.
And Andrew Wiggins.
Still need to see that beef between Wig and Steven Jackson, but we'll save that for another day. It seems that Miami has emerged as the favorite in Jimmy Butler's camp to as a favorite destination, rather. And then the issue is that right now Minnesota's asking price still remains too steep, and they seek quality. This is straight from Woj. Quality vets, top prospects, future assets, cap relief. That is what Minnesota is seeking, and it is too high a price for interested teams such as Miami. And there's sources that are skeptical of Thibodeau's desire to make the deal happen.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the report earlier, but they reportedly asked for Ben Simmons in return for Jimmy Butler. So obviously, I think it's only a matter of time until I budge, but I think that is more so, you have to try type of deal. Obviously, like, I highly doubt that they ever thought that the Sixers were going to give them Ben. But to me, in this scenario, it seems like a lot of teams that are in for him are in that. Well, not all of them, but especially on the Heat's point of view, they're in that too good to not be tanking.
Yep.
Very weird middle ground. So it's very interesting that they're in for him. I think if they do get him, it'd be potentially you're looking at like a 4th seed in the West. I mean, the East, sorry. And obviously, I don't think they can compete with any of the 3 teams ahead of them. But I mean, you could still argue that Indiana are still better than them, even if they get Jimmy. So I definitely do think it shakes things up in the East. I would love to see him go East. But obviously, the teams that I personally think could benefit the most from a Jimmy Butler trade, number one, off the top of my head, I think Denver would shoot themselves to get a Jimmy Butler deal. I don't know why we haven't seen them mentioned as a name.
I'd be interested to see.
They have absolutely zero defensive talent on that wing. So,
well, yeah, I'd be interested to see what Denver would want to give up. I could see Paul Millsap going the other way.
Yeah, if you think about it, at the same time I do understand why they aren't in for him.
Yeah,
Timberwolves will ask for an arm and a leg with them being in the same division. So
yeah,
very difficult. There was another team that I can think of off the top of my head. I have to hold that thought. I'm trying to think. You can go into some teams that you think.
I mean, one team that has been obvious, but since the time when a few years ago they really needed a wing, and they were reportedly in for Jimmy Butler, they've now got 3 wing players that are all fantastic and cause much less issues and are probably better suited for this NBA than Jimmy Butler. I'm talking about the Boston Celtics. That they got Jason Tatum now, who they didn't have the first time around when Jimmy Butler was being shopped around. They got Kyrie now. There's no real cap space there for him, I don't think, is there? If he was going to go to Boston.
There's the cap there. Yeah, they have a very flexible situation in Boston right now.
Of course they do.
But the thing about this, I think the only way they pull the trigger on Jimmy Butler deal is if like Kyrie is like, I'm not staying unless you trade for Jimmy Butler, which would be very weird for him to say, considering, obviously Gordon Hayward is not as good as Jimmy, but he's not that many notches below Jimmy's, and you'd be potentially giving him up in a trade plus Jaylen Brown. So I don't understand.
And you don't want to have Jimmy sign an extension and then hinder your ability to re-sign one of your Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, because you want to keep both those guys. I don't like Jaylen. Jaylen's not as good as Jason, but you still want to have him around, especially after you got rid of Jay Crowder in the last few years. You're kind of running out of wing depth over there. But I saw another team that was named the Houston Rockets. That would be interesting. It's very intriguing. However, it's going to be very difficult to make that happen. You're going to need a third team involved, and if it's somebody out west, they're going to be very reluctant to be involved.
Yeah. Obviously, another team I think should potentially try to pull the trigger is OKC. That defense is already.
It's hard to get past those guys on the perimeter.
Top 10 in the NBA, probably going to be a top 5 defense. They probably were a top 5 defense last year. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they were, especially when Roberson was there.
Yeah.
So if you had Jimmy,
that'd be nasty.
That would be
get healthy, Roberson.
Yeah, for sure. And are there any other teams I was thinking of? Portland.
Wow, that's one.
They haven't been in the talks, but I think I would honestly move CJ for Jimmy. I literally love CJ, but I think a Dame Jimmy backcourt will be a lot better defensively, and that's one of their main holes. And I think if you're looking to get into the playoffs in this Western Conference, especially with the Lakers reloaded, you're going to have to, and there's so many question marks from that 5 seed to 8 seed. I think a lot of the teams in the lower Western Conference should be trying to make a move. Obviously, the Pelicans, but I don't think they have the talent to get them. So,
I think the thing about the Portland deal, because you have those 3 fringe teams on that Western Conference playoffs, because you got the Lakers in there now. Those 3 fringe teams are Minnesota, Denver, and
Pelicans.
The Pelicans and the Blazers as well. I'd still consider them a fringe team because
the Lakers a fringe team as well.
Yeah,
that's how deep the Western Conference is.
And so, the Portland deal, I would say, would be much better defensively, like you were saying, because neither Dame or CJ really want to play defense, and Jimmy will take on the best front court or the best backcourt player that your opponent got, right?
Yeah, you're not losing that much offensive production.
Correct.
Like in the same amount back, so it's like
you're gonna lose a little bit of your perimeter shooting. Jimmy's not the most consistent 3-point shooter, but he can score buckets in other ways.
Yeah, you're gonna get the same production back offensively.
So I think I really, back when the Hawks still had a decent roster, I really wanted Jimmy on the Hawks because I thought that would be that's the one kind of spot there, but that's all gone now. I'm trying to think of any other Eastern Conference teams.
Watch a single Hawks game this season. No one is.
I'll watch for Treyway. Treyway. But I'm trying to think of any other East Coast or Eastern Conference teams, man.
Well, New York should try to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
New York. I mean, obviously we could almost name almost every team in the NBA. That's
Jimmy's. Yeah.
Jimmy is.
Yeah.
But the last 2 teams I would probably list are New York and Toronto. Obviously, I think Toronto, if you're trying to make a move to keep Kawhi there, obviously you really have nothing to lose, to be fair. If Kawhi leaves anyway, you're trying to blow it up regardless. So I wouldn't, as a Toronto fan, they might be a little bit mad that I'm saying this, but I wouldn't mind including OG Anunoby in the deal to try to get Jimmy Butler to Toronto and try to become a contender, put yourself above Boston.
Well, because that was the whole point of Masai making that trade was to keep the flexibility. He knew that he has one shot at this, and if it doesn't work, he wants to blow it up. That's the reason why they traded DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard.
So why not go completely all in?
Yeah.
That's my thought process on that. And then speaking of New York, I think New York, they're in an interesting situation because if you're really all in on trying to convince Kyrie Irving to come, there's been these whispers through the air that obviously Kyrie this week, just like yesterday, said he doesn't really have a reason to leave, but at the same time, this is the NBA. Who really believes that? You never know. And Kyrie's a really weird guy, so you never know.
It's a freak, man.
As New York, you should make a play for Jimmy, especially considering you're on the list. So,
well, who are the other teams on the list? The Clippers and the Nets.
The Clippers, the Nets, and the Knicks, and then obviously the Heat came into the mix.
The Heat came into the mix as well. See, the Nets, D'Lo and Jimmy, meh. It gets you in the playoffs, but it doesn't win you shit.
The thing with the Nets, the reason why Jimmy wants to go there is that cap flexibility.
Yeah, that third max spot.
And he feels like he can convince stars to come there. So that's their thought process. Along with the Clippers, I guess. Yeah, the Clippers as well, because that roster is a bit of a, I'm not saying dumpster fire, but it's a very, very
it's a mess
roster constructed in the sad part of LA right now.
And see, if I'm Jimmy, I want to get away from the West Coast or get away from the Western Conference right now. Unless you're going to the top contender, you don't want to create your own team. Not with
The Warriors to be the sixth man.
If you want to get your shot at the finals, don't go to the Western Conference. Not right now.
Unless you want to be a sixth man for the Warriors.
Yeah, sixth man for the Warriors. And yeah, you know,
to the Warriors 2K19.
I'll suit up.
Let's be real here. Would you be shocked if Jimmy went to the Warriors? No, not at this point.
Oh, that's the day the timeline blows up.
If prime Jesus Christ went to the Warriors.
That's the day that the timeline blows up. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but anyway, we got some actual basketball next week. Not actual, but semi-actual basketball. The good old NBA preseason coming back to your television screens kind of soon. Next week, right? Or this weekend, actually. This weekend. Today. Whoa, dude.
Celtics versus the Hornets tonight.
And we got Treyway playing on Monday. Because you know that's gonna be one of the watchability ratings this year. See how many shots Treyway can shoot up. I'm gonna see how many he can shoot in the preseason. Obviously, the new look Mavericks are gonna be something that I want to keep my eye on. You got Doncic, DeAndre Jordan, Harrison Barnes is already there, and then reportedly Dirk is going to be a 6-man off the bench this year. Maybe not a 6-man, maybe just coming off the bench, taking one with the team there. But if he gets him back in the playoffs and you conserve his body, he can still definitely be a valuable member of a playoff team for good old Dirk. But anything you're looking forward to in preseason basketball so far, or looking forward to? I think the obvious one is coming up, but anything specific?
Just seeing how the Lakers adjust. Definitely interested to see what 5-man lineups they roll out. That's mainly it for me. I just want to see how that new look team looks.
Yeah, I want to see how Melo is. Melo, surely Melo's gonna be in camp, right, for the Rockets.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so I want to see, I want to see the kind of lineups that some of these Western Conference teams run. And they're not going to show too much in the preseason, but I want to see what they're trying out to try to beat the Warriors, because we know there's a top dog. But teams like OKC, what are you going to do differently this time to try and mix it up? The Rockets, what do you have to make sure you don't go over 27 straight threes in the Game 7, man? Things like that. But
look at the Jazz, because
yeah,
a lot of people are hyped for the Jazz this year.
The Jazz. I want to see how much of the reins Cleveland gives Colin Sexton, man. Let the young bull roam. I'm kind of excited to see that. And then wherever Jimmy ends up, that's probably going to be what we're looking at.
Yeah,
anyway,
definitely the most exciting storyline.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's see, when's the first regular season game?
Second week of October, maybe.
Yeah. See who's improved a little bit from the time. See which rookies have improved, obviously, from the time Summer League has ended. And see how much they've learned from that experience of playing in Summer League for those that did. Obviously, Trae Young had a lot to learn from that experience. He struggled at the beginning, mightily at the beginning, and then at the end, he showed some promise down the stretch. And then there's guys like Jaren Jackson Jr. who just took straight to it, and they knew he looked like he was still playing college basketball. He was killing dudes.
He really did, yeah. But obviously, Summer League is it's a bit of a slippery slope because we've seen guys perform bad in the summer league and perform good in the NBA and vice versa. So
yeah, you can't put too much stock in it, obviously. But then anything else on the list? Obviously, we got some hockey we want to talk about, but anything basketball-wise that you might want to talk about?
nah, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. All right. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, let's talk about the sport. The very much sport that starts next week. The National Hockey League will be back.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it starts on Wednesday, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. It usually starts on Wednesday, right? I don't want to do. I think we'll probably try to do predictions next week before those games start. But right now, obviously, Sharrieff's a Flames fan. Interested to see who makes teams for a certain part. I'm not like a huge hockey nerd, so I don't know all these random names that pop up. I just know I might see them, I might not. If somebody gets hurt, it's usually what happens, right? You just wait for them to pop up, and then you act like you knew them the entire time. That's how you got to do it.
Yeah, act like they're the best player in the league.
I'm actually really excited to see how, if they pull him up for good, Christian Vesalainen, who's got just a ridiculous shot, pull him up. If the Jets decide to pull him up, and then you got the Toivonen guy for Nashville. See which guys and which teams in the West got better. Because you can't have an expansion team just go all the way to the finals, man. That just pisses me off. Oh,
yeah,
the damn Jets.
It's a bit embarrassing for the league.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, obviously, I think some people might think it's good.
Like, yeah, it's awesome. No, it's fucking shit.
Obviously, it might have gotten a few more eyeballs, but in hindsight, I think it's bad for the league. Like, for the teams in the league, probably not for the fans, though.
Yeah, I think there's no way that having Marc-Andre Fleury in your team makes that much of a difference. There's some fucking peds going on.
Apparently. It does, apparently.
Fucking peds, man. But yeah, I think there's going to be some teams that make a huge jump this year. Obviously, Calgary is not going to be as bad as they were last year. San Jose is going to be a President's Cup contender, in my opinion. Well, actually, maybe not, because I forgot how much they gave up. They gave up a lot for that Karlsson trade, but Karlsson's just a fucking beast. Erik Karlsson's just a monster.
The division is going to be really tight.
Yeah,
very, very tight.
Because Edmonton's not very good, but they do have Connor McDavid, and if you have Connor McDavid, you have a chance.
It's like if you have LeBron, you have a chance.
Yes, exactly. Carrying bums, man. And then Dallas, I guess Tyler Seguin signed that massive contract. See how that affects their ability, because right now, last year, they just fell apart down the stretch. I think we all enjoyed watching Colorado. Nathan McKinnon, just an absolute beast in the Western Conference, just tearing shit up.
The interesting thing about hockey is it just like every year it seems like multiple teams drop out of the playoffs and other teams come back in. So it's a bit random in that sense, obviously.
Yeah.
Like the NBA where maybe the bottom teams drop off, but you don't necessarily see some of those top teams drop off drastically. So you never know who's going to have a huge dip the next season.
Yeah. And the injuries, like Chicago, Corey Crawford went down last year, and they ended up fucking bottom 3 in the Western Conference. And that's a team that they nearly won the President's Cup the year before for best record in the league.
Obviously got swept in the first round.
Yeah, they got swept in the first round by Nashville, but I mean, they were still one of the best teams in the regular season, and they last year just had a massive drop off. And so I'd look for Patty Kane and Jonathan Taves to be better this year. But teams like the Kings and just St. Louis, Anaheim, Minnesota.
You got your boy Colby.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's huge for them, but I don't know how much of a... They were already a playoff team. I got that bit. Anaheim, they lost Corey Perry for like 5 months. Like the other day, that got announced the other day. Corey Perry's out for like 5 months. So if he's...
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. So we'll probably see another team in there instead of Anaheim. Because
I think with the Flames, the biggest question mark is the goaltending. The forward depth looks pretty good this year, but if Mike Smith picks up an injury, fully expect the Flames to sink. You know.
Yeah.
If
Same with Winnipeg. Yeah.
Has a tweak in form, expect them to sink. But if he's healthy for a majority of the season, I think the Flames can swim. You know, the forward depth is really there this year.
Yeah, the forward depth and the power play, hopefully for you guys. Just anything but that power play last year. Anything.
Absolutely.
As far as Winnipeg goes for me, what I do want to see is last year, Patrick Laine took the leap that we were all just kind of expecting. He competed with Ovi all the way up until the last few days of the season, rather, for the, the Rocket Richard. And so I want to see if he takes another leap this season. He might not. If so, I want to see some improvements in his game elsewhere. Add a few more apples in there. But if Blake Wheeler can keep up the assist numbers he got last year, he had 91 points. It's pretty crazy. Got him in the MVP discussion for a little bit. And then guys like Kyle Connor. And then I mentioned earlier, who's going to maintain their level and who's going to drop off, because that's really what made the difference for Winnipeg last year, being second in the league, one of the best season in franchise history. So interesting to see how that plays out. But
for sure, probably should wrap this up.
Yeah, about time to wrap it up, man. It's getting late. It's been about an hour, right? Yeah.
Time to finish.
Anyway, guys, sort of got anything else to add? Anything to plug before we head on out of here? Obviously, I'll probably put that up.
Probably gonna start streaming. A little bit more. Had a good time on the stream the other day.
Yeah.
Talking basketball. So
yeah. For you guys that don't know, anytime he's on the stream, we usually just shoot the shit talking basketball on stream, or we'll play some 2K or something like that. Maybe some Rainbow Six.
Twitch.tv/TailsY0.
Yep. And then my @ on Twitter is, I'll just probably put that in the description. I'll probably put yours in there as well. In the podcast description. Anything else to add before we head on out of here? No?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you guys for listening. First ever Matt and Sharrieff show. We should be getting on a more consistent schedule. This is the first one. And don't forget to @ us on Twitter if you have anything you want us to discuss on the next episode. Any suggestions that you might have for us regarding the structure of the show.
Any guests.
Yeah, any guests that you guys might want to be on here. Just hit us up. And we'll see what we could do. But for now, it's starting to get late. It is 3:22 a.m. on a Friday morning now, I guess now. It's Friday morning. So we're going to go ahead and head on out of here. Thank you guys for listening. We should be up early next week, around Tuesday. We're going to try to start getting these out Tuesday, Wednesday, around there. Yeah. And so I guess it's going to be a bye-bye for now. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
See ya.